Okay, we are ready to roll. Back. Okay. Let me get the songbook. All right, the songbook. Okay, we'll chant the song Guru Dev. So we are in Sacramento and doing programs in Sacramento. So we're very happy to be here in Sacramento with the Vaishnavas. We're actually in Davis, which is right near Sacramento, which is right where the University of California is. We'll be here for another 2 days. Goro Sakadudin nami atitin Koromore at masaja Yo jari jari kichunai boy Domakaru nasara Yo getabi jari kichunai boy Domakaru nasara Gorat no hoire kandia kandia Nanana kibo Okay. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravitacharya Ausuteta Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chalanad Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shrilas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwait Gadadha Shivasiri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Swayam Mukunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuram Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Haribol. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Budale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamani. So, all glory to Prabhupada. So we're going to continue with our class in the Jaivadharma. So I'm here, as I mentioned before, I'm here in Sacramento, California. Sacramento means actually in Davis, California, just to be practical, which is the University of California, and we're doing different programs here with the Vaishnavas. So, all right, let me read translation. Gurudev, give this servant just one drop of mercy. I'm lower than a blade of grass. Give me all help. Give me strength. Let me be as you are without desires or aspirations. I offer you all respects, for thus I may have the energy to know you correctly. Then by chanting the holy name in great ecstasy, all my offenses will cease. When will such mercy fall to this one, who is weak and devoid of intelligence? Allow me to be with you. Gurudev, if you examine me, you will find no good qualities. Your mercy is all that I am made of. If you are not merciful unto me, I can only weep, and I will not be able to maintain my life. Okay, very nice. All right. So, let us go. Ooh, they're cooking here. Anyway, so I can smell it. I wonder if I can turn my... Let me, to counteract, I'm going to put my nice garland on from Radhagolokananda. I'm very attached to this garland. So, Govinda. So, okay, so let's go on and read the Jaivadharma. So, Om Ganata Viladasha Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Unmeditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. Jai Srila Prabhupada. So what I'm going to do is put the fan on the window so I get some fresh air in here, because when people cook, I'm very sensitive to smells. Of course, that's actually a good sign, to be sensitive to smells, because they say one of the signs of cognitive dissonance, or not cognitive dissonance, but cognitive problems when one gets older is that one can't smell anymore. And I definitely have a very strong sense of smell. And I'm adverse to a lot of types of smells, like, incense. So, so let's go on to the Jaivadharma. Share the screen. Where is that Jaivadharma? Okay, Jaivadharma. Which screen is that? I thought I had that on one of the screens. I know I do. Give me 1 second. Oh, I see why it's not showing up. Oh, where is it? Hold on a second. Jaivadharma. Oh, here it is. Okay, got it. All right, here's the Jaivadharma. All right. Okay. Okay. All right, this is really in the middle of Rasa Tattva. Attractive. Okay. Okay. Let me just read the sentence right before this. We read it yesterday, but I'm just going to read it again. In the Mahabharata, it is written that one should not analyze the inconceivable bhavas by material logic. Bhavas mean spiritual emotions. Those bhavas, emotions which are beyond the material realm, are said to be inconceivable. Achinsha, that means inconceivable. So we can understand them through the lens of the words of the acharyas, but if we try to project those spiritual bhavas or emotions upon the realm of the material energy, then we're going to be confused and wrong. So attractive, rati, that means relationship to Krishna, or love. And the inconceivable, rasa tattva, the understanding of ras. Of course, ras means the taste of love of Krishna. And there's different types of taste depending on one's rati, which means whether one is a passive adorer of Krishna, whether one is a servant of Krishna, the friend of Krishna, the parent of Krishna, or the conjugal lover of Krishna. So, allows one to attain Krishna as the vibhava. Vibhava means that which stimulates your emotions and nourishes one with all the ingredients of rasa, taste. You have the ingredients of rasa, taste. Just like you say the ingredients of the rasa of, let's say, the taste you have for a certain type of food. But the ingredients of rasa, okay, are mentioned. Rasa samagri is the technical word. Don't have to worry about remembering that word. The ingredients of rasa. Let me just make sure the volume is all right. Hold on a second. I'm concerned about the volume. The ingredients. Whoops, the volume is real low. The ingredients of rasa. Give me a second. That's a little better. The ingredients of rasa are the different bhavas. What do you mean? All right, we're going to get to that in a second. Okay, so we'll use the text to explain that. Rati, the relationship reveals Krishna and things related to him as the shelter of all qualities, such as sweetness. And Krishna, after being experienced in that way, increases the love or the relationship. So here's the ingredients of ras. The vibhavas, that which stimulates a relationship, anubhavas, the voluntary expressions when you get stimulated, when you see Krishna or hear about Krishna or see things related with Krishna, such as dancing in ecstasy. It's a voluntary expression. Let's say the curtain's open, you go, wow, or you offer obeisances, at least, hopefully. The sattvika bhavas, which are the constitutional ecstasies, and vyabhachari bhavas, which are 33 ecstasies that come and just take over your consciousness, and you can't predict their coming, and you can't control them once they do come. So these clearly assist the sthai bhava. That's the other type of emotion. Sthai bhava means your continual or your constitutional or your foundational love, or the emotion from the love, to be precise. And the sthai bhava, the emotion, the constitutional, foundational, assists the other bhavas. So they all work together. In other words, you're jumping up in ecstasy, you're seeing Krishna and feeling ecstasy, and you're jumping up and down having seen Krishna, and what's going on inside you is the ecstasies from being attached to or connected with the mode of goodness, and your vyabhachari bhavas, which continually move throughout your body and just like make you like a crazy person, are connected with your foundational emotion. And the foundational emotion is connected with the other emotions. I hope that makes sense. Brajanath said, what is the difference between love for Krishna or relationship with Krishna and love for material objects? Please explain this. Like I love my computer. It's actually interesting. I'll tell you a funny story about material love. Like this morning, I was taking my morning walk with the devotees, and we were walking in the park. It's a public park, and there's a lot of people walking here early in the morning. The reason they're working early in the morning is this is Sacramento, and later in the day it gets hot. Tomorrow it's supposed to be like 105 or 109 degrees Fahrenheit. Not centigrade. If it was centigrade, we'd all die. So, the early morning, everybody's walking, and, there's America, and also India, it's the same, wherever else in the world. People are walking with their dogs. People are not. I don't think I've ever seen a person walking with their cats in the morning. Just try to leash up a cat, you'll be in trouble. So they're walking with their dogs early in the morning. And I just wanted to see, like Prabhupada said, that if you like someone's dog, they'll love you. So I wanted to test it out this morning, and I did. So as I was walking by, there's a rati for material objects. You may ask why I'm saying this in the middle of class. Well, I was walking by people, and of course, people who didn't have a dog, I just said good morning to. I didn't tell them how nice they were. That would have been highly inappropriate. So if they had a dog, I just said, what a nice dog. That's a pretty dog. Well, it was a little poodle. And those who had a bigger dog, it was like, wow, what a nice dog, good spirit. And then people started, like, the smiles went up to their, the corners of their mouths went up to their ears. And one of the people, they actually said to us, do you have any programs here? And I was thinking that this rati that people have, of course, a dog in one sense, the body is a material object, because if the dog was in a different body, like a cucaracha body, that's cockroach for those who don't know, they wouldn't be so attractive, but the dog is furry and kind of cute. So I was just seeing it just proved to me what Prabhupada said about if you love someone's dog, then you actually win over the owner. So I said, this is going to be my new preaching program. Instead of like preaching at the university, I'm just going to go around to where the dogs are and the people are, and just tell the people how cute and wonderful and loving and ecstatic their dogs are, and I'll make new devotees amongst the dog owners. That's my strategy right now. So anyway, listen, it really proves the point. Anyway, I thought that was cute. So anyway, so that's people have rati for material objects. Please explain this. Goswami said, attraction for material objects is material. Rati for Krishna is spiritual, obviously. That's it by definition. It is more astonishing than all astonishing things. Material rati produces happiness in union and extreme distress and separation. Actually, you see that with people with dogs when they come home at night, from working in a job, something like that. The dog is at home. Actually, having a dog is more practical than having a baby, because a baby you got to put up in daycare, whereas a dog you can just leave him at home by himself watching TV. So that's why I suggest getting dogs instead of babies. So material rati produces happiness in union and extreme distress and separation. I remember people just like really distressed when their dog passed away, and actually there was in the 1960s or 70s when they first started sending ships up to space. You could pay to have your dog's ashes sent to space, and it was like very expensive. When rati for Krishna arises in the devotee, it manifests as a special rasa and produces great happiness in union. In separation, it produces an astonishing transformation of bliss. And that's one difference between material relationships or material rati and spiritual rati. That separation from material rati is simply miserable, and spiritual rati actually connects you more with the object of your love. It's interesting. Question by Mahaprabhu. Ramananda Roy explained the transformation of astonishing bliss and separation in his verse, Parilehi Raga Nayana Banga Vela. Before we met, there was an initial attachment between us brought about by an exchange of glances. That's, of course, Krishna and Radharani. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was taking the position of Srimati Radharani. That's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya-lila, 8th chapter, text 194. In separation, there is a mere appearance of pain, but actually it is a special type of happiness. So that's one distinguishing factor between material rati and spiritual rati. Brajanath said, logicians say that ras is only a partial manifestation of an object. The taste, how do we answer? And they're right about material things. Goswami said material rasa, material taste of relationship, is a partial manifestation of the whole of the object. Since the sthai-bhava, the foundational emotion, manifests as ras by the nourishment of the ingredients. Let me explain that. This really cool statement. That in the material world, your ras is only nourished when you're in touch with the ingredients. That means That's kind of funny. Oh my God, I shouldn't even say this. You know, there's the Ashraya and Vishaya. Okay, Ashraya. So you're the Ashraya and your dog is the Vishaya. Using the same terminology. Using the same exact terminology that's used, in by Rupa Goswami and also repeated by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So only when you're actually in touch with the individual entity or the thing you're attached to. Spiritual rasa does not manifest in this way. It in its perfect state is eternal, whole, and self-manifesting. In other words, even in separation, there's an increase in the, actually a greater increase in the rasa, the taste, in separation than there would be in meeting. That's pretty cool. In the state of sadhana, that means practice, the rasa is experienced as a form revealed in the material world, temporary. That's interesting. Oh, yeah, the state of sadhana of material rasa. Material rasa does not remain during separation. That's the point. Okay. People actually do sadhana for material rasa. I guess they do. They practice loving their dog. Their sadhana is to pick up the dog poo. Yeah, another thing, we were walking this morning. Yeah. And, we had our japa bags in our hand, chanting the holy name. And people had something else in their hand. And what they had in their hand was a plastic bag. We had a cloth bag with japa beads, the sacred objects. And they had a plastic bag with dog stool in it. So it looked like, I thought they were devotees, they're walking around with something in their hands. But it was a bag dog stool. Anyway, so much for that. So, material rasa does not remain during separation. Spiritual rasa becomes more splendid in separation. The great Shakti Ladini, that means the pleasure potency of Krishna, in a pastime form attains oneness with the great bliss of rasa. In other words, Krishna's pleasure potency becomes very much connected with the taste of relationship. In other words, we get so ecstatic, and that's Vyabhachari Bhavas. In other words, the highest bliss is called ras, the relationship, or the taste of the relationship, which is non-different from, I'm just trying to paraphrase what he's saying, which is non-different from the object of one's devotion, who is Krishna. In other words, the highest bliss is the taste. In the material world, it's not the highest bliss anyway. This is beyond logic since it is inconceivable. Yes, it is inconceivable. The highest bliss is the taste of the relationship because Ladini Shakti attains oneness with, it becomes the pleasure of the relationship. Try to understand that. Wow. This is so amazing. Rajanath said, what are the types of spiritual rasa? Spiritual taste. And again, this is repetitive. There's one primary rati relationship. Primary means what? The neutral relationship, the servitude relationship, friendship relationship, parental relationship, and conjugal relationship, and 7 secondary relationships, which we heard about before, which is adbhuta, shock, or humor, or ghastliness, chivalry, all these are secondary. Thus 8 in total. And the secondary ones flavor the primary one. And sometimes, as we've read before, they become so powerful, they may supersede for a temporary period of time, the primary one. Similarly, among the 5 primary rasas, remember, we're talking about, again, neutral, servitude, friendship, parental, and conjugal. There is one for an individual and 7 types of secondary rasas. Thus, there are 8 varieties of rasa. The same thing is being repeated. Oh yeah, 8 varieties of rasas, 8 varieties of connected ratis, which is relationship. So the relationship is connected with the taste. Okay. Please, Vrajana said, please name the 8 rasas. The more I hear, the more my desire to hear increases. Actually, he mentioned it before. But Goswami said, Rupa Goswami has said, Mukyastu panchada shanta pita prayam javatsala maduras jetjami giya yatapurvam anutama. The primary bhakti rasas, the loving relationships, loving tastes, rasa means taste, are 5: shanta, peaceful; priti, servitude; pareo, which means the friendship; vatsala, and madhura, sweet, which is vatsala, of course, is the parental, and madhura is sweet, which is the conjugal. The order of excellence is from the first to the last. It's from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 115. So what that means is they get better, or higher, or more excellent. I don't want to use the word better. That would indicate comparative, like worse. We don't want to think comparatively. But the highest, there again, comparative, because anyway, you can't get away from it. So the highest is the conjugal, which is the topmost. Okay, now we're going to hear about the 7 secondary rasas. Oshol mutas tatavira koruna rodra ijjape bayanaka sa vivatsa itigonascha saptada. There are 7 secondary rasas. Harsha, humor. You all know what that means. Humorous. Adbhuta, astonishment. Vira, enthusiasm. Vira also means heroic, enthusiastic. It can mean a whole bunch of things. So just hearing one word definition of these different terms, but actually they're much more, let's say, broad, variegated, descriptive than you would think. Like vira means heroic, enthusiastic, bold, fearless. That's all those things. Karuna means lamentation. Oh, woe is me, I lost Krishna's association. Rodra, that's really easy for most of you to understand. Anger, it's one of the big ones. Vacho Vegam, Manasa Kuroda Vegam. Bhayanaka, fear, I think we understand that. Fear for ourselves, fear for Krishna, fear for other devotees, etc. And Bibhatsa, which is disgust, or sometimes described as ghastliness. Ooh, something disgusting. That's from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 116. Brajanath said, what is the real meaning of bhava in spiritual ras? What is the real meaning of emotion in the spiritual taste? Actually, I'll give you an interesting material example of bhava in a ras in the material world, not the spiritual world, just so you understand. Once upon a time, I was at someone's house, and they, this is going to go to Vibhatsa, Okay. But Russ, not from me because I'm more self-controlled. So they made this concocted preparation, and I tried it, and I said, it's not really for me. It didn't taste so good, but I didn't get really disgusted or angry or anything like that. So the person who cooked it said to me, "What do you think of this preparation?" And I said, "It's let's see, the word I use was it's something like it's either interesting or what was the other word I used? Challenging. Yeah, that's the word. It's kind of challenging." So I didn't exhibit self-control. So her husband got interested. What is it? What does he mean by that? So he said, "Let me taste it." And so he tasted it, and he immediately spit it out. He said, "Yak!" That's bibatsa. And then he exhibited Rodra, angry at his wife. How can you make something like that? And then I also exhibited after that Hasya, humor. And I told the story again and again to be humorous. So anyway, right now, that's Hasya. What is the real meaning? Okay. What is the real meaning of emotion in the spiritual taste? So, the reason I told that story, there was a taste, and emotion came out of the taste, okay? The taste was, in that case, the material taste was really bad. I don't even think Krishna accepted it. So Goswami said the bhava, which is made to arise, the emotion which is made to arise by deep spiritual impressions in the matter of bhakti, loving relationship, in the heart of a wise person who has dedicated intelligence in spiritual matters, is called bhava in the scriptures on ras. There's ras scriptures. It's called emotion. Let me just unpack the bhava which is made to arise by deep spiritual impressions in the matter of bhakti. Spiritual impressions would be like the vibhava in the heart of a wise person who is dedicated intelligence in spiritual matter. It's called emotion in the scriptures on rasa. Of course, that's the point. The vibhav excites a particular emotion. The other emotions, vibhava, is the stimulation. Previously, I said that there were two types of bhava: conceivable and inconceivable. That means things you can understand and things that are just beyond the realm of your material understanding, which are spiritual things. Conceivable bhavas are subject to logic, since the bhavas, or emotions, that arise in the conditioned mind, that's us, of a bound jiva, are all born from material qualities. So in other words, I can logically understand someone's material emotions. I can analyze it either biologically, psychologically, sociologically. I can analyze someone's emotions. I can go through, in psychology, of course, you have the diagnostic manuals where you could actually analyze it. All the material bhavas related to the Lord. Well, okay. So what? Okay, now we're talking about material bhavas related to Krishna. Like you see Krishna. If you project your material conceptions, are conceivable bhavas. In other words, they're projections. Okay, here it is. They're projections. It's called iconoclasm. Okay. Let me look up that word, iconoclasm. I'm pretty sure that that's the right word. Give me a second. I will look it up by the mercy of the internet. The internet is very merciful. So, that's it up. Iconoclasm. Well, that's that's rejection of spiritual objects. I think it's connected somehow or other. Oh, yeah, that's rejection of the form of the Lord. So, in other words, it's seeing the form of the Lord as something material. Generally, it's understood as destroying the icons or images. But I guess it would be like it would be psychologically thinking things are material. Anyway, so let's go back. Wrong word there. So, okay. Material qualities born from material quality. All the material bhavas related to the Lord are conceivable bhavas. Actually, the conceivable bhavas do not apply to the Lord since the Lord is beyond matter. Someone like speculates on the nature of God, thinks it's material. One should not, that's a type of iconoclasm, where you destroy deities. One should not think that the Lord has no bhava since he has no conceivable bhavas. In other words, let's say someone thinks that all the bhavas in this material world, all the emotions in this world, are actually fraught with faults. They're full of faults. So the Lord should have no bhavas, since bhavas or emotions are faulty. So that's actually what was being mentioned here, something like that. All bhavas, no form. So it's similar to iconoclasm. The Lord must have no form, because we're projecting our understanding within this material world that forms are limiting, forms are illusion. All bhavas exist in relation to the Lord. They are all inconceivable. Bringing the inconceivable bhava to the heart, examining it with fixed intelligence, understanding one sthai bhava among the inconceivable bhavas. So in other words, we all have a particular sthai bhava, that means a foundational emotion, and that's connected to the ratis. Okay, here we go. Which is our relationship with Krishna, which is based upon whether we're in Shanta Ras, peaceful Ras. Again, I go through these five. Hopefully everyone remembers them. Shanta Ras, Dasharas, Sakyaras, Vatsalyaras, or Maturya, whether we're in one of these types of ratis. So there's a corresponding bhava, okay, here we go, which is called the sthai bhava, depending upon which of the eternal relationships our soul has with Krishna. And then there's a corresponding ras, or rasas, based upon that particular bhava and that particular rati, or relationship with Krishna. Understanding one's sthai bhava among the inconceivable bhavas, that means one's constitutional, foundational. Accept the sthai bhava as relishable while accepting the other bhavas as ingredients. The other bhavas means the 7 secondary bhavas, okay? Then you will manifest the nitya siddha akanda. Akanda means unbroken. The eternally perfect is what this word means. Eternally perfect, unbroken ras. In other words, you'll experience it. You will manifest it, means you will experience it. That will be part of your normal experience. Wow. Kanda means unbroken. Actually, it's used in relationship with brahmacharis, who are kanda brahmacharis. Grandfather Bhishma was like that. Brajanath said, Prabhu, what are the deep impressions of bhakti related to this topic? Wow. The deep impressions that we get of bhakti, which is love, related to this topic. Goswami said, overcome with material objects, wandering in the wheel of karma, for many births, consciousness is composed of ancient and recent, that means this life, impressions. Wow. Of course, these are called samskaras. That's a technical word for it. Samskara means impression. Also, there's ceremonies called samskaras, and these ceremonies create impressions. They're not just like ceremonies. They connect you with Krishna and create impressions. You understand? Like you have a marriage ceremony. I hope that's why there's marriages instead of just boyfriends and girlfriends. So it creates an impression, especially when you spend like tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars for 1 day ceremony or 3 day ceremony. It creates an impression. I got to take this seriously. Or initiation is like that. Creates an impression. I've taken a vow. I've made a promise to Krishna, the Guru, the deities. I mean, Krishna is the deity. Holy name, the Vaishnavas. And so that's an impression, very strong impression. So that's called samskara. So samskara means impression, but we have sometimes bad samskaras. Like in the past, we may have been traumatized. That's a samskara. I talk to people all the time who are traumatized, and they have samskaras, impressions. This is a distortion of the function of pure consciousness and the pure Atma. In other words, our experience in this world, unpacking again, distort our original consciousness, all these different experiences. So the way we get rid of these impurities, these impressions, is what? Guess what? If you haven't guessed it by now, it's Cheto, Darpana, Amarjanam, Bhava Mahadvagni Nirapanam, Shreya Kairava, Chandrika Pitardanam, Vijavad, Jivanam, Ananda Mudi Vardhanam, Pratipadam Purnamritas, Svadanam, Sarvatma Snapanam, Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. By chanting the holy name, it cleanses the heart of all the impressions. And therefore, one gets rid of one's habits. It's really cool. It works. I guarantee it. I experienced it. I continue to experience it. Now, there's spiritual impressions too. The impressions, which we're going to hear about in a second. So the material impressions, experiences we have, whether they're traumatic or not traumatic, they're still impressions. When you see a movie, it creates an impression. That's why we want to avoid bad association, because bad association creates an impression. And you remember, I remember things that I did when I was a little baby, basically. So the impressions created by actions of worship in association with devotees, on the other hand, by the strength of sukriti, piety, spiritual piety, remove these distorted impressions. That is so cool. And manifest real impressions. So you got distorted, like a piece of glass that's basically distorted, like a funhouse mirror or something like that. It's distorted when you look at your image through the funhouse. I don't know if any one of you have been in a funhouse, but you have these images that make you thinner, or I don't want to use the word fatter, because I'm not supposed to shame people, but thinner or horizontally challenged, or they stretch your face out so you look real weird. These are distorted. And so the experiences we have in this world create distorted impressions, and the experiences we have with devotees in Krishna consciousness, when they're actually focused, create spiritual impressions. So when these impressions become deep, they manifest the inconceivable tattva in the heart. This is so incredibly wonderful to hear this. When our spiritual impressions become deep, we actually are just like really deep in our contact with the spiritual reality by chanting the holy names in association of devotees, by seeing the deities, by doing our sadhana nicely. They manifest the inconceivable tattva, that means love in this particular point, is rasa tattva. That is the meaning of deep impressions. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. So, on this happy note, this is such an interesting part of the Jaivadharma. I highly recommend it. So, okay. Let me stop sharing and allow you to unmute yourselves. So, very, very interesting. Someone must have a question or a comment on this. So, who has a question, comment, argument, problem? So, Mr. Gopal, so you have so many impressions in your heart. When I
Please
first
accept my
met
thanks.
Gopal, when I first met Gopal, he was carrying around his little cat, Tom. You know,
My
cats
name's
have to
Tom.
be called Tomcat.
Tom, nice to meet. Um,
Was it? Wasn't his Tom? Was
so
it Tom?
yeah, Tom. Tom was Gary. Great. Um,
That's an
so
impression in your
earlier it
heart.
was
So if you don't cure that impression, then you're in trouble. So anyway, so all
in
right,
trouble
go
with
ahead.
any. Um, so earlier in the chapter, we said that material separation uh, merely brings pain and doesn't increase the love. But then we have this cliche that
Yeah, love makes
absence
the
makes
heart.
the heart grow.
Separation makes the heart grow fonder. Fonder. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is that some reflection of
Yeah, it's a
spiritual love?
reflection because it doesn't connect you with the person. You're just thinking about yourself.
Hmm.
That's not real love. Love means to be connected with the person, trying to please them. But this feeling of separation in the material world is what the person does for me. It's about me. It's not about them.
So that fondness that is created is not real fondness. It's simply anticipation of sense gratification.
Well, very subtle. I mean, it's not some. It's not going to be like some people I know who kiss their dogs. I won't mention who that is. Not you, Gopal. Don't worry. Some of us, anyway. Some of my relatives uh, will kiss, on the mouth. Kiss a dog. It's just
Oh,
disgusting. Can you imagine kissing a dog on the mouth? They also kissed a turtle on the mouth too. A pet turtle. Can you imagine this big mouth? It's like the gods or a demon coming up to you. If you're a turtle, you see this big thing coming up, this smelly smell emanating from it, and smacking you on the lips. Turtle. At least a dog is more sattvic. So anyway, so, anyway, you're just thinking. I mean, even the material rasa of being with the person is is based on my enjoyment. I mean, yeah. I mean, but a devotee can have actually spiritual rest with another living entity, another jiva soul, because we can actually know what their real self interest is, really love them, and it can be selfless love. I mean, that's the thing I experienced with Prabhupada, that Prabhupada had selfless love for all of us. I mean, he was the first person I experienced in this world who actually had selfless love for everyone, for me. And how did I know that? Well, it's just like you feel it. It's an energy. It's the bhakti shakti. So that's how I knew it. So, yeah, so the rest of the love is actually based upon, I hate to say it because people disagree all the time. I scratch your back, you scratch my back. But it's to a certain extent it's like that. But when one becomes Krishna conscious, one can actually have real love and even rus with other living entities connected to Krishna. I mean, when I try to bring people to Krishna conscious, I actually can taste the spiritual rus. there's actually an ecstasy that occurs. Uh, it
May I ask
takes,
a
oh,
follow-up question, Gurudev?
yes, you can ask a follow up question.
So you felt that love from Srila Prabhupada, but Prabhupada met hundreds of thousands of people, and they all didn't quite feel it in the same way, although Srila Prabhupada had it. So, what do you do when perhaps you may understand intellectually that someone really cares for you in that way, but because of your own dull-headedness, you can't feel it in the heart?
Well, at least feel it intellectual or understand it intellectually. Like if you have like, all right, let's say 100 people who meet Prabhupada and they have that same impression. That's the majority. And so, of course, people do make mistakes. I mean, it is a fact. I mean, you can see that in politics all the time. That people think a particular politician cares for them, but they don't think that a particular politician cares for them in a causalist way. They understand he has so many self-centered faults. I'm not going to mention any particular politician right at this point.
Good.
But you can see the problem. There's no self-centeredness in problem. I mean, that's an objective observation. It's not subjective. I mean, objective is no faults.
So two people can objectively observe this, like you observed it, and then someone like myself may observe it, but you reciprocate it by dedicating your life to Srila Prabhupada's service. And then someone like myself sees it, observes it, but then does nothing. So,
Nothing. Well, you're serving Krishna. I mean,
well,
your whole life is dedicated to service, isn't it?
no, but
I mean, what are
thanks.
you doing? What are you doing with your life? Even though your mind may not be completely, let's say, kosher, it's, it's halal or kosher. Your mind may not be kosher, to use an ethnic expression. Your mind may not. I like that expression. So, anyways, even though your mind may not be, but what are you doing physically,
Forcing
right?
myself.
Yeah, you're kicking and screaming, but you're acting on the intelligence of forcing, kicking and screaming as you're being dragged to the
Yeah.
spiritual realm. So, but you're acting on the platform of intelligence. I mean, that's really the beginning, to act on the platform of intelligence, to have that realization, and then just do it, even though one doesn't feel like it all the time. That's Krishna consciousness. So
Thank
we're
you.
talking about sadhana bhakti. We're not talking about right now bhava bhakti. I'm not saying that you're on the platform of bhava bhakti or prema bhakti, but where you should be on the platform of uh, buddhi yoga, which means the intelligence, which is higher than the mind and it's higher than the senses.
Mm.
Yeah, so I understand that. I'm not claiming that I'm on the high platform of devotional service, but I understand, and then I just dedicate my life to Prabhupada. This whatever, and that also comes from past impressions, like Sukriti. So it is our business to create impressions for people. You understand? Sukriti, uh, impressions, positive impressions of Krishna consciousness. And that's why it's an offensive to preach in such a way that you drive away people from Krishna consciousness, because you're creating a negative impression about Krishna consciousness. So the whole business of presenting Krishna consciousness is also samskaras. You
Mm.
understand?
Yes, Gurudev.
Samskaras create positive impressions in people's minds. But not just like materially, not like you create positive impressions just by giving people lollipops.
What's wrong with lollipops?
Anyway, I'm just making a direct aspersion against a particular devotee. But positive impressions, well, I guess if they're offered to Krishna. positive impressions based upon some spiritual thing. I'm not saying that positive impressions should be based simply upon my uh, praising the dog and saying you got a pretty dog. That's not a positive spiritual impression. What it is is actually it's an introduction so the person will accept positive spiritual impressions. And the dog wasn't
That,
ugly anyway. Actually,
that's
yeah.
your in like a flower, out like a flower.
Last night was very interesting. I was doing a program and I said if you say that someone has an ugly dog, they won't like you. And even though it's the absolute truth, such a prihitam, you're speaking truthfully. And the person raised the question, but how can you see a difference between ugly and pretty if you're a spiritualist? And I said, yeah, you're right. Vijavinaya sampane brahmani gavihastani shuni cheva supakicha panditas samadarshana. That a sage doesn't make that distinction. If his consciousness is on that level, but in order to preach Krishna consciousness, we have to just come down and deal with the material world and see certain things are attractive. We have to make that distinction. You can't think, let's say, a beautiful sunset is ugly, and a piece of stool is pretty, or just equal. Beautiful sunset is equal to a piece of stool. Because that may be the consciousness of someone who's like on the Avaduta platform or Paramahansa. But we have to come down, or be down if we're not coming down. I'm not saying I'm coming down. But we have to function on a level in this world where we do make distinctions. And we can, if we really go up to that high level, whether I die from eating unhealthy food or live from eating healthy food, it really doesn't make a difference. Sometimes devotees imitate that. You say, whatever type of prasadam you give me, it'll be good for me. But it's not like that. It's really not like that. Yeah, I mean, if you don't give a damn whether you're alive or dead, that's the Paramahamsa platform. But I want to live to serve Prabhupada. I'm trying to be on the Majjhima Adhikari platform. I'm not trying to be on the Uttama Adhikari platform. So we have to distinguish. It was an interesting discussion because the person, first I said, that's because I'm in the material world. That's my answer. Just because I called the dog, I didn't call his dog, I just said that a dog could be ugly. Okay, that's interesting. So there's one more question here from Nalini Kant. Can you please again explain Sattvika Bhava, please? Now I'm understanding everything, but able to relate to the other bhavas, general meaning. But Sattvika Bhava is not difficult to understand. The one comes in contact with the spiritual energy, which is Shuddha Sattva, and one exhibits certain types of emotions, the eightfold Sattvika Bhavas, the Ashta Sattvika Bhavas. As a result of that, there are emotions. The Sattvika Bhavas can also sometimes be termed, some of them may be, when they get intense, they're Vyabhachari Bhavas. I mean, these bhavas are not mutually exclusive. Let me read this different Sattvika Bhavas for you. Database. Yeah, I know I'm over time, but I can do that since it's still early in the day. It's only 3:05 in the afternoon. Is it 8? The 8 Sattvika Bhavas. Hold on a second. Oh. Here they are. Transformations of the body, here's the definition, arising from the internal disturbance of the heart and prana. Yeah, because actually it's sometimes described when the prana, or the life airs, come in contact with the Shuddha Sattva, which is the spiritual energy, your life airs. of your body. You have different life areas of the body. The whole body is functioning by life areas. Okay, here's a further definition. Yeah, I was aware of that. I just didn't utilize that. And the heart and the body become disturbed. And the 8 ones are being stunned. And I said this is very similar to some of the Anubhavas and also some of the Vyabhacharya. But the Anubhavas are executed voluntarily, whereas the Sattvika bhavas are actually just like part of the personality of a person. But they're not, one can control the Sattvika bhavas to a certain extent. The manifestation of the Sattvika bhavas, but the Vyabhacharya bhavas you can't control. So stunned is one of them. Perspiration. Horripilation means the hair standing on end, if you didn't know. Faltering of the voice. Trembling. Pallor, one turns white. Tears, crying. And devastation, fainting. So they're not as intense. So the same things are there in the Vyabhacharya bhavas, but they're much more intense and uncontrollable. So I guess, one way of looking at it is the Anubhavas are completely controllable. The Sattvika bhavas become less controllable by a person, but it's still, with great effort, you can sort of like hold them down. And the Vyabhacharya bhavas, you can't control at all because they build up, okay? That's actually a good way to explain it that I hadn't thought of before. They actually build up in intensity. Or of course, especially the Sanchara, which is the same as the Vyabhacharya, they move throughout the body. Whereas, let's look at the Sattvika bhavas, they don't actually move throughout the body. They're just like, I guess they're localized perspiration, but it's not moving throughout the whole body in different ways. Horripilation, standing hairs and then faltering of the voice, it's localized. Trembling, localized. Pallor is localized in the skin. Tears are localized from the eyes, unless you can cry through your feet. And fainting. These things are not just, fainting can also be like pretty complete, but one of the Vyabhacharya bhavas is when you increase the fainting to the highest degree, it becomes like death. That's one of the Vyabhacharya bhavas. Anyway, that's an interesting discussion. This is so interesting. I actually am learning a lot. Okay, so let's talk about intensity. And the Vyabhacharya bhava is also connected with the prana in the body too, but they're connected with every aspect of the body. Okay, so on that happy note, we learned a lot today. We should end, if that's all right for all of you. Thank you very much. All glory is to His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Very nice educational